Antony Blinken. And I know for the podcast, you're not going to be able to watch it, but you'll be able to tell what's going on from the sound. So you'll still be able to appreciate it. This is Antony Blinken, who you all know, Secretary of State, sociopath, willing to murder any children he needs to in order to ensure the U.S. empire is as big and powerful as possible. Many of Biden's decisions are really made by him. So this is him trying to give his testimony, as well as the Department of Defense, Secretary of Defense, Austin, giving their testimony in front of Congress about Israel and Ukraine.
Vice Chair Collins, distinguished members of the Appropriations Committee, thank you for this opportunity to testify before you today.
Populated areas. Stop supporting the genocide and ethnic of the people of Gaza. Ceasefire now. Save the children of Gaza. Save the children of Gaza. Ceasefire now. Where is your pride, America?
I do recognize that people feel very passionately, but I ask that we have order.
I always love that. So, as you can tell, for those of you listening to the podcast, as you can tell, guy interrupted, screaming, ceasefire now, save the children of Gaza. And Blinken is just left staring there without any pupils, blankly staring ahead, preparing to justify war crimes. And it's just wonderful. And there's a whole group of people with red paint on their hands, all holding their hands. It's all Code Pink. You can look up Code Pink online. They do amazing work. So it's all Code Pink activists. But then she says, I realize passions run high. Passions run high? It's a genocide. You shouldn't be allowed to have your little meeting on how it's okay to have a genocide. Yeah, passions run high. That guy who was just thrown out is what all of us should be. He's absolutely what all of us should be. But Antony Blinken's going to continue to justify the genocide.
In this hearing room and respect our speakers, we will move forward with the hearing and allow the people here and the American people to hear from their witnesses. Senator Blinken.
Thank you, Chair. 2.5 years ago, our adversaries assessed that the United States was becoming permanently divided at home, alienated from our allies and partners around the world. Working together, we've demonstrated that America's resilience, its strength, and leadership in the world remain unmatched. We've made historic investments in the source of America's strength at home, our democracy, our infrastructure, our economic and technological competitiveness. We've invested in the modernization of our military, and we've invested in our greatest strategic asset abroad, our network of allies and partners, which is growing larger, stronger, more united, and more capable than ever. We're standing up for our interests and values, not shrinking back, not in the face of Russia's aggression against Ukraine, not in the face of an intensifying strategic competition in the Indo-Pacific and around the world.
If the witness will suspend, and I ask everyone again respect this hearing, we will suspend until the room is cleared.
Is calling for a ceasefire. Shame on you all. The world is calling for a ceasefire. The American people don't want to support this.
So right now, that's Medea Benjamin, a friend of mine, co-founder of Code Pink. She's being dragged out. She's interrupting with red hands and a poster that says no more war. And again, Antony Blinken, Secretary of State, has to sit there in that tiny little room and with his beady, pupilless eyes and stare forward and wait until after he's confronted with the absolute truth of his war crimes. And then he'll get back to talking about how wonderful we're all doing. And I don't know if you could see it, but just for a split second, you see that there are people leaving in the committee, meaning there are committee members, I don't know whether they were Congress people or what, who are leaving because they don't want to be seen in the video footage of this. They don't want to be associated. They don't want to be seen sitting there as war criminals with people interrupting them. And that's beautiful. That's the goal of this. Make these people leave. Make them storm out. Make them upset. Make them realize that it's bad for their brand to be sitting there watching activists call them to account for the absolute ethnic cleansing that's going on right now in Gaza. And so Medea gets dragged out by 3 security guards, despite the fact she's like 4'2". But anyway, she's 4'2" with the personality of someone who's 7'5". So.
All right. You've been listening to the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken.
And then you have CBS News chiming in because they don't want to allow these protesters to be heard unfettered. So they also interrupt their own program in order to talk over Medea.
Blinken, who's there on Capitol Hill with the Secretary of Defense, covered with some type of red material, perhaps presumably indicating blood on hands for what is happening in the Middle East.
You notice even God, the level of whitewashing, even he said they've got blood on their hands, the protesters, and he said, for what is happening in the Middle East. How about for Israel's genocide? How about for Israel's indiscriminate bombing? How about for Israel's killing Gaza? How about for Israel's killing children? What is happening in the Middle East? You people are disgusting. You are just so goddamn disgusting. These journalists.
They're restarting. Okay.
Not in the face of terrorism.
Oh, they're
and its state
restarting.
sponsors. And America does not stand alone. We built extraordinary coalitions with friends who, in this mission, as in so much that we do to advance America's national security, our defense, our diplomacy, our development must work hand in hand.
Committee will suspend. And again, I appreciate that people feel passionately about these issues. I would ask that you respect our witnesses and our committee members and allow the American.
Could you imagine if you were sitting there, if there was a hearing during Nazi Germany and people were interrupting it saying, hey, Nazis, don't commit the Holocaust. And there was someone sitting at the front going, look, I understand that passions are high right now. I get that this is a very passionate thing we're seeing right now. Anyway, the person that just interrupted is Ann Wright. Ann Wright is she's a wonderful human being, part of Code Pink. She's on Code Pink's board of directors, but she was also in the U.S. Army Reserves for 29 years and retired as a colonel. She was also a U.S. diplomat and served in U.S. embassies in Nicaragua, Grenada, Somalia, Kyrgyzstan, Sierra Leone, Micronesia, Afghanistan, and Mongolia. She resigned from the U.S. government in March 2003 in opposition to Bush's war on Iraq. So basically, she realized that the U.S. empire is not a force for good. It's a force for death and destruction. And she now is willing to get arrested in Congress for standing up and speaking out. And so Blinken continues to try and give his full-throated support for this genocide.
American people to hear their testimony. We will pause until the room is clear.
Slaughter. I know that several
Palestinians aren't animals!
Committee will suspend, and I again ask that those in the audience.
He gets interrupted again. And I love how he's just like rolling his eyes. He doesn't even know what to do. This is absolutely everything that we should all be
Respect the
doing.
people in the room and allow us to continue the hearing. The hearing will suspend until the disruption is removed.
with the Israeli government. The president and I have both stressed the need for Israel to operate by the rule.
Why are we handcuffing the arresting man?
Committee will suspend.
Eh.
Let them be at the table. Why aren't they at the table? Ceasefire now! I thank you.
And yet again, and we'll do one more.
Be strong enough to deter and defend against aggressors beyond its borders. Ukraine needs a resilient economy and a vibrant democracy within its borders. Since Russia lost its war, the robust funding supported by Congress has enabled the people of Ukraine in their courageous fight to defend their nation. It's helped make sure that Russia's invasion and strategic
Committee will suspend.
So there they are. That's all of them at once. Pretty much all the Code Pink protesters standing up and demanding an end to war. And yet again, Blinken is left looking like a fool. At this point, there's so many people for them to kick out that the cops have their hands full. They can't even get them out. It takes a long time.
Ceasefire now.
And all the reporters who, up until now, were not really bothering that much with the protesters, now realize that the protesters have become the story. And so they have spun around, and you see a bunch of people with cameras now taking pictures of the protesters, which should be the story. It should be the story that there are protesters demanding an end to genocide as Antony Blinken, Secretary of State, stands up there, sits at this little panel and says, oh, we're doing great. We're doing great right now. This is awesome, the way we support ethnic cleansing.